All right, cool. Well, thanks for joining, everyone. So for everyone who doesn't know, this is part 3 of a 6-part series that we're launching called Lean Enterprise Toronto, and it's all about a new book that was launched earlier this year called The Lean Enterprise, which is how large companies can innovate like a startup. So the last 2, we had RBC and TELUS in here, and they were talking a lot about how they've been incubating from within to innovate, as well as some investing. This one is kind of the 3rd pillar to the Lean Enterprise, so it's how you can innovate through acquisition. So we got an awesome panel here today. We've got probably 3 of Toronto's top youngest entrepreneurs, I would say, who have all started companies, founded companies that have been acquired. So before we get started, just quickly, I want to say thanks to a few sponsors who have made this happen. I'm just one small piece of this puzzle. There's 2 other co-organizers. Carlos from TELUS, who's a Lean Strategy Manager there. Michael, who's over there. And where's Ramley? Ramley's back there. He's a Lean Startup Strategist as well. Steam Whistle has been kind enough to keep us hydrated with drinks. Panago, Climax Media, whose office you're in right now, for providing the space, and the Lean Enterprise authors who've given us a few books. So we do have a few books to give virtually right now. The shipment didn't get here on time, so we will get you the book. So we have a couple books. How we've been giving them away is, take pictures, tweet, and use a hashtag Lean Enterprise Toronto, Lean Enterprise TO, and we'll draw a couple names, and we will get you the books. We'll courier them, we'll hand deliver them, however we need to make it happen. Cool? All right. So we're going to run with a panel session. I've got a few questions for them, but I want this to be very interactive. So I've got a few questions, and then we're going to open it up. If you have questions for the panel, if they have questions for you, we'll make that happen. So I'm going to read off some quick bios. I hate reading off of sheets. It's like goes against one of my fundamental principles in business. But there's a lot of important things that I want to say about these guys, and I want to make sure I don't overlook them. So we'll start off with Jordan Satok. So Jordan was one of the youngest entrepreneurs. Are you the youngest now? I know there's some battle between you and Brian. You and Brian. But Jordan is the youngest tech entrepreneur to raise VC funding. He raised about $2 million seed round from OMERS to form a company called AppHero that was later acquired by Fuse Power. So essentially, Jordan's now director at Fuse Power. He continues to work for that company. His responsibility is for building relationships with AdRally ad network, evaluating new ad tech opportunities, and leading ad operations. Next is Rob Ostfield. So Rob is currently the managing director of Channel Zero Digital. So they're the digital division of Canada's largest independent broadcaster. Rob is essentially responsible for managing all of Channel Zero's digital properties, which include chch.com, anpop.com, and chartattack.com, along with identifying new growth partnerships and opportunities for that organization. So previously, Rob was the CEO and founder of Anpop, and now it was essentially a music and pop culture property. So we'll get into more of that, I'm sure, later on. The last person on the panel is Satish Kanwar, who I'm sure many of you are familiar with. He ran a user experience agency called Jet Cooper out of Toronto for many years that was later acquired by Shopify. So Shopify helps over hundreds of thousands of retailers around the world sell online, in-store, and on the go. And he's now heading up their Toronto office here, their fast-growing Toronto office. So that's who we have on the go for today. So I want to kick this off. I've got a few questions. Again, Satish kind of poked fun at me that they're too formal, so we'll keep it very loose. But I wanted to start off, and I kind of had the questions in like pre-acquisition, acquisition, and post-acquisition format. But I really wanted to start off. I didn't want to dive right into it. I wanted to really set the foundation and ask each of you, like, what was the inspiration for starting your company? And I want to start with you, Satish, because I remember back in the day when I was working for IBM and you were working for Microsoft. I've never told you this story before, but you posted this awesome video about why you're leaving Microsoft, and I was trying to find it just before everyone got here on YouTube. I don't know if it's still out there.
I didn't have a beard, so I took it down.
Okay, cool. Makes sense. Makes sense. But yeah, that was really, really inspirational for me because I was working in kind of this large enterprise. You had just left Microsoft, and I was like, man, this guy's going out to build something. That's really cool. So would love to kind of kick that off and like, what inspired you to get out there and build something?
Yeah, the day I made that video, I was way overexcited. It was my first day full time, not at a company or at Microsoft where I was working at the time. So I was way too excited. That video, I took it down like 2 years later because people were making fun of me. Really, you know, I had been freelancing in kind of the design world while in school full time. There was something that kind of happened out of the blue. It was like many people probably in this room, like the computer guy in their high school. So people asked me to do stuff, and eventually that stuff turned into making posters for school clubs. So I picked up Adobe software and taught myself, and while getting into U of T over the years, I started to kind of practice that craft in many different ways and partner with a few guys both in Waterloo and U of T to deliver those services to small and mid-sized businesses, first starting with family and friends and then growing from there. All of that seemed like a really nice side thing and a fun project at the time. So when I graduated, I continued to pursue a full-time career, which was via Microsoft. And as I was getting into that, the early stage tech community here in Toronto was growing quite a bit. There are actually two role models of mine that were at Microsoft at that time, David Crow as well as Farhan, who went on to start Pivotal Labs, or Extreme Labs, now Pivotal, and they both left around the period that I was there, and I was learning about the businesses they were getting involved in, a lot of cool things, and meeting more and more entrepreneurs through the early demo camp community. So all of that kind of made me muster up enough courage a year and a bit later to quit and start a business called Jerky, and that was Jet Cooper, and it was only because at the time that was the only model of like sustainable business that I was personally aware of, was selling services for cash to funnel and grow a business, and there wasn't a lot of precedent that I had access to or motivation that I had access to like many people coming out of universities and colleges today do in terms of all the code camps and student programs and other things. So that's where the inspiration for the business came. It was literally the only thing we knew how to build and monetize right away at the time. And the vision for that kind of grew over time as we were two very design-focused people in a very engineering-focused world, and trying to figure out how to make those two things come together and to add value to the engineering practice. So that was 5 years of figuring that out.
Cool, cool. Rob, same for you.
So what was my inspiration?
Yeah.
So my inspiration was basically necessity. So around grade 9 or grade 10, I was the first year in Ontario that had to do a program called Career Studies in high school. And what I learned from that experience was basically I was destined to become a ditch digger or a garbage man. And my parents are backing up on it. They're wonderful people, but they'll say I'm not exactly academically inclined. But what I did learn from that kind of course and talking to people was I seemed to have a skill for selling and a lot of tenacity. And then through the career studies course and talking to people further, entrepreneurialism, or becoming an entrepreneur, became a natural fit for what my skill set is. I knew I wasn't going to become a doctor, I knew I wasn't going to become a lawyer, I knew I wasn't going to become an accountant, but being an entrepreneur kind of fit in with my personality and what I did well. And then through there, I went to Ryerson University. That was the only business program that was willing to let me in. Luckily, they have higher standards now than they had at that time. Funny, quick story. My mom was sitting around with a bunch of friends who also have kids around my age, and they're all discussing what schools, what universities they're going to send their kids to. And one lady says, I'm going to send my kid to McGill. Another lady says, I'm going to send my kid to Western. And my mom said, I'll send them to the school that lets them in, basically. That was the only criteria. But anyways, she's a wonderful lady. Anyways, through there, I became friends with two guys, Mike Levine and Adam Gonshore, who had this website called ampop.com. One was a tech guy, one was a business guy. They didn't really have a sales or business development end to what they were doing. And I kind of fit that role. And over time, we were able to build the business up. And eventually, it led to it being sold in 2013. And now I'm kind of a quasi-entrepreneur, what we'll call it. I have the entrepreneurial spirit and drive, but I work inside a bigger company. and I have a much better health plan now too. So, no joke, it's actually a real money.
Cool, Jordan.
So I'm probably the oddball on the panel. I started the business really, it was something that I'd always felt the need for. As a young kid, I saved up a lot of money and eventually bought an iMac, and I loved how it looked. I loved taking it out of the box, and that whole experience was really magical for me. But I remember turning on the iMac for the first time and realizing it didn't really do anything when you took it out of the box. Realizing that software was what made a computer actually useful for people. That was a big eye-opener for me, that out of the box, no one really knows what to do with a computer. And for a long time, all of my entrepreneurial career, it's been how do you enable people to better use the technology they already have. It's not about going and buying the latest, greatest computer, phone, tablet, whatever. It's about taking what you have and using it to better your life in some way. So I started a business when I was 12. It was a blog about apps. It was called iApp Blog, and we were blogging about Mac apps. And that became an advertising business, and I was making way too much money selling ads on the internet as a kid, and then I got kind of fat and lazy and ran that down and decided I didn't really want to do that anymore because I was making shitloads of money as a kid. And then, I know, it is.
We feel
yeah, it was. And then started registering a lot of domains and getting really interested in the app space, but this is still pre-iPhone. And then the iPhone came out and the App Store launched, and it was like, wow, there's 1,000 apps for the iPhone. This is a problem. I don't know how anyone could ever figure out what they would want to use on their iPhone. So I started a site called App of the Day, and it was a community of people that would nominate their favorite apps, and then we'd pick an app every day and feature that on the site. And I thought I'd only run it for, I don't know, a couple days. It was something that I built in the evenings and stuff, and it kind of took off, and it was pretty crazy. And community grew, and was on TV a couple times talking about it, and millions of users, and it was a really great project. Not really a business, but a good project, and sort of parlayed that into, as the app community grew, realizing that the apps that each person uses on their phone, it should be really individual around what is really right for that person. No two people are alike, and their phone should represent that. So we actually went out and raised some money and actually hired Jet Cooper early on in the process, and try to conceive of what it would be like to personalize the whole app discovery experience. And we grew that. We really worked hard at it for a long time, perfecting what it meant to help the average person. Not really, I wouldn't even say the people in this room, because everyone here is kind of the tech elite in some way, but the average person, and try to help people find the best apps. And really happy with what we were able to achieve there. But it ended up being a very hardcore tech play, where it was about what apps you had, what was on your Facebook, what was on your Twitter, and analyzing all that data and trying to provide personalized recommendations. So we grew that and ended up selling the business in the fall to another company here in Toronto who was in the gaming space, and they were looking to really grow the business. And we realized a great strategic fit around advertising, that they were looking to grow the business and sort of to do more personalized advertising, and the tech that we built kind of lined up. And I'd say that's kind of the inspiration that led to where I am today and what I do every day now.
Where did Ripple fit into that?
Oh, right.
I met Jordan through a company called Ripple. So Jordan mentioned he did lots of things at night, and one of them was Ripple. And this was all while he was in high school,
right?
Which
oh yeah,
was last week, so it's not even a long time ago. But funny story, when Jordan left, and Jordan was doing this part time, like he said, like he was doing a lot of stuff after work, which is one of them was Ripple, along with building all these businesses. And when Jordan left, true story, I can't even make this up, we had to find 3 full-time people to replace what this guy was doing. It was pretty crazy. And when I first met this guy, I knew that
I was 15, I think.
There was something special there. So anyways.
Yeah.
So obviously not an important part of the journey. So we'll move on.
No, very.
Yeah, not even a footnote. Cool. So yeah. Okay, so kind of like fast forwarding, you guys got your business on the go. Like, when do you guys start to consider, an M&A or an acquisition? Obviously, that's not the main focus when you set out to build something. You don't want to sell your baby right away. But like, at what point do you get to, or what are some of the factors that you recognize, or how does that play into this whole equation? Because I know there's some people who work for startups here, who are starting startups, or some people in larger companies who maybe want to acquire startups. So just kind of curious, and maybe we'll start off with you this time around.
So in our case, we raised a small round of financing in around 2011. We had some really amazing group of angel investors who funded the company, and we had probably about an 18-month plan of what we wanted to accomplish and how we were going to get there. And I'm proud to say we did everything that was on the list. At that point, we started recognizing, okay, if we want to get to the next step, it's going to require more money. And we started going to the original investors, plus going to outside or new groups of investors saying, hey, this is what we want to do, this is the vision, this is what we've accomplished, and this is why you should get involved. And there's definitely some interest. And we started looking at what was the potential outcome of raising more money. And the reality was, in our particular case, there's going to be a lot more work, a lot more sacrifice, and at the end of the day, we're going to be diluted to a point where it didn't really make economic sense in order to keep going forward. And at the same time, we started having conversations with other companies who we thought could be a fit as a home for what we were doing. In this case, Channel Zero. So we had a conversation with Channel Zero. I've been lucky to actually have known the president of Channel Zero for a few years. And just to give you some quick background of Channel Zero, it's a company you guys probably never heard of, and that's okay, but it's the largest independent broadcaster in Canada. Really, they started off in digital specialty channels. So you go to channel 300, channel 400. They own a bunch of those television stations, and they also own a bunch of over-the-air, or a couple of over-the-air broadcast channels. The biggest one being CHCH Channel 11, if you live in Toronto. But in their particular case, they had a couple of obstacles / problems / opportunities. Number one, very heavily focused on broadcast. And by no means is TV dead, but TV is having a slow death. And these guys are recognizing that, and saying we need to start making other bets. And the other problem that they have, and they've been very open about it, is that the brands, the media brands that they had within their portfolio were kind of skewing to an older demographic. And unfortunately, those people are going to continue to age, and you need to start talking to a younger audience. And in our case, we had two digital brands that are focusing on a youth audience. So in our case, it was just a perfect fit. And then also, what really helped in our case was I actually had known the president of Channel Zero for a few years, a gentleman named Cal Miller, who would actually act as a mentor of mine. And he tracked the progress of the company. He knew us. He knew what we were doing. And luckily, we were able to make a deal that made sense for everybody.
Cool. Jordan?
I think to me, it's just about fit and growth of vision. You reach a point, or at least I found you reach a point where you know the things you set out to do, and you also know that there are obstacles in your way, and it's, to me, about figuring out the most strategic way of getting around those obstacles. Sometimes those obstacles are, we need more money, sometimes those obstacles are market factors or whatever. In our case, I think Apple decided that they wanted ultimate control of the app discovery ecosystem, and that was a tough blow for us, that they did not really want a third party, dealing with discovery. And I think that's what turned me really on to this advertising side, and how do you, instead of just pushing people to get ads through an organic method, it's like, how do you help people find the best apps? You'd be playing a game and an ad pops up. Well, how do you make sure that the ad for whatever game is going to be really relevant? So to me, it was about, how do we take the vision, how do we take the technology, how do we take a team with a lot of passion and energy, and direct them in a place where there's existing infrastructure and existing business that we can help, massively grow. We were very happy with this home. We explored a lot of different avenues. We spoke to some folks in California. We spoke to folks in New York and Boston, and I think the reality was that we realized we could do a lot right in our own backyard, and be able to make a massive impact on an existing footprint with the technology and knowledge that we brought to the table.
Cool. Satish?
So as I kind of described, we started our business with the intent and understanding that this was the model of business that we knew how to successfully potentially build. We had done it in kind of spirits as freelancers, and we were exploring and kind of trying to actively determine how to build a more scalable consulting business. Very quickly, I'd say we started that in 2009. Very quickly realized the word scalable and consulting business didn't really fit in the same sentence. But we were still very driven by our kind of short-term objectives, which were at any given stage the thrill of kind of organically and in a bootstrap way building and generating income into the business and scale and of people and of capabilities and of clients, really trying to put ourselves in situations where we could do the best possible work and the most innovative kinds of work with great companies. So we use Jet Cooper as an avenue to learn a ton about various industries and various forms of business by working with the kinds of companies that we didn't know how to build ourselves. That led us to working with extremely innovative people, ranging from Jordan's business to many others on a yearly basis, and also to meet a ton of specialized talent in that design and front-end engineering space. So between 2009 and 2013, we grew that team from myself and Vern, the two co-founders, to 25 people full-time, and experimented a lot through that process with ways that we could introduce new risk into the business. So ways of now saying, hey, we've gone through a lot of repetitions, we've learned a lot about what's involved in creating a product, what's involved in acquiring users and building a community. Can we apply that in various ways? And we spun out product companies and we tried various forms of making them successful, closer to us, further from us, but recognizing that we couldn't do both things simultaneously successfully without kind of completely ruining our progress and ability to focus on one operational model. What it takes to grow a services business versus what it takes to grow a product business. What do you do with each dollar? Is it a dollar return today or one maybe 10x tomorrow? So through this time we kept focused on very short-term goals. We did planning sessions ourselves and with our team every 6 months, and we only set goals on a 6-month kind of oriented basis. And in the last year of our business, we were approached a couple of times by potential acquirers, which was the first time we even thought about it, was when someone came and approached us. And we realized in both of those first occasions, which were other consulting businesses, that if we were going to do kind of consulting services, we had no interest in doing that with anyone else. We were doing just fine ourselves. We controlled who we worked with, how we worked with them, how long we worked with them, the process and model in which we worked, and we maintained a really specialized focus. We were only doing front-end design and development for software companies or companies building software of their own. Eventually, a product company approached us, which was Shopify, and that kind of came also out of nowhere, and it came first as a potential opportunity to work together in the same way we had worked with, at that point, maybe 40 or 50 other technology and product companies before. And as we began to explore that discussion, the depth of work just got larger and larger, and they shifted the tone of the conversation to saying, if we're going to do all this, we might as well do it in a way better way. Why don't we just join Shopify? And that was the first time we seriously considered doing something of that nature, because this wasn't another consulting company or kind of a business that we had no interest in. We had been doing a lot of work in that area and a lot of work in retail. This was started to present itself as kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But really, going back to the root of why we considered this opportunity and what came of it was more of a personal question than a business one. Because at that point, we had no external investors or anything of that nature. It was asking ourselves what is best for us and what is best for the 23 people that have come along for the ride in these 4 or 5 years. And for ourselves, having no long game vision for what we wanted to build, but having a really great present state in this amazing design business, we realized that the environment that we had created for ourselves wasn't the best environment for us to learn in anymore. Or the problems we were solving weren't changing, the problems we were solving weren't as interesting to us as those we were solving for other people. And looking at the careers of the 23 people that came along for the ride, we realized there was a greater opportunity for them as well. And that was all in the context of this being a talent acquisition versus a technology one. Those are the driving questions that kind of made us consider an acquisition. Nothing we proactively went out to look for, but it's an external opportunity that triggered kind of a personal conversation over the course of 10 weeks. Ultimately, a decision was brought us here.
Cool. Yeah. So opportunistic at the same time, right?
No,
For sure.
Yeah, because even that trend of acqui-hires has slowed down quite significantly in the past year versus the 3 years prior.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, just going back to kind of the core theme of kind of this group and why we're here with Lean Enterprise, and we may have touched on it on the last question, but kind of flipping the switch and looking at it through the lens of the larger company. Like, what are the benefits for them? And you had mentioned, talent, technology, time to market. Like, what's the benefit for Shopify to acquire Jet Cooper? Obviously it has to be mutual, or Jordan. Kind of, what's the benefit of Fuse powered, purchasing AppHero? And if we've touched on it, like we can go on. But if it's different, that I'd be interested to hear.
Yeah, I think even I'll just kind of take a step back. I think for us, but as well as for really any company, bringing a new but somewhat aligned perspective to the table is really valuable. If you can find a team of people who are incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly passionate, and have you don't really know where you want your vision to go on the larger business side. You don't know where you want this new division or this new product or whatever to go, but you can find a group of people and some technology or some expertise or whatever that fuel the growth of this new division or new product or whatever. Having new people come to the table at once who are incredibly aligned and incredibly tight. For us, it was a team of 6. If for you guys, it was 25. You bring a team of experts to the table at once who have the power to radically influence business and get a lot done in a really efficient time frame, rather than kind of ad hoc pulling a bunch of random people together and saying, okay, we want to go build this product. Let's spend the next 18 months learning about the subject, making a lot of mistakes, and then ultimately getting the wrong thing to market too late. Bringing the right people together really, really quickly, integrating a product and launching it to the world, launching it to your customers, I think is a lot more efficient, both from a capital perspective, but also a time perspective, at least from my experience. And I don't know what you have to say.
Yeah, I think one part of that kind of sums both our circumstances as well as Shopify's kind of broad view on this is that what is your speed relative to the speed of the market? Now, whether that's from a technology or a talent standpoint, what do you need to capture the market at a high growth stage relative to those operating around you in the market and the speed at which they're moving? And sometimes you need certain capabilities or talent through the lens of innovation for the subject that are going to help get you there, and sometimes you need certain technology that would take you way too long to build or way too long to stumble and figure out. So in our circumstance for Shopify, hiring 20-odd design-oriented people that already know how to work together and have a process is something that would otherwise take a business at least reasonably 8 to 12 months to do. You may be not as aggressive in business at scale. So is that speed to figuring that out and what's required to do yourself worth it relative to what's happening in the market around you, particularly in our space of retail and commerce, the aggressive investments into crafted products that are designed ease of use there. So that was a heavy part of the motivation. And again, that speed issue is usually the only reason for buying versus building.
Anything else, Rob?
Well, those are all great points. I mean, just specifically in our case, it was a combination of both. It was talent / the properties and the brands we built that Channel Zero found attractive. As I was mentioning earlier, they had 2 problems. Number one, they have brands that are targeting older people that are broadcast, and number 2, they don't really have any digital infrastructure. And by buying our company, they basically solved both those problems. They had these 2 brands that had solid traction and just needed a little bit more love in order to grow. And these guys could basically, Channel Zero could easily pump in some money and grow the properties as we have. And not only that, though, as Jordan was mentioning, we brought a new perspective into the organization. CHCH is as mentioned, is a primarily TV channel. It had a broad or digital element, But the way that the digital element was presented was not the way that we thought it should be presented. And we brought some new ideas to the new staff on how to use social media, how to get engagement with an audience, and it's actually proved to be very, very fruitful in that sense. Because again, we just a new perspective, a new way of looking at things that these guys just hadn't previously had in the fold.
Cool. All right, I have 2 questions, and we'll open it up. So I don't know, maybe we'll start with you, Jordan. I mean, everyone obviously knows kind of the financial upside of an acquisition, and you know the benefits get glorified in a lot of media. What have been some of like the pitfalls or kind of drawbacks of an acquisition? Well, we are filming this, so maybe be careful.
We'll have jobs now, we're going to get fired.
Pitfall 1.
For the whole team that works with me, I kind of joke around about getting fired every day. I think, you know, on the pitfall side, it's like you're used to when you're running your own company, being able to pick your own direction, being able to pick who you want on the bus, you know, working with you every day. You ultimately are the decision maker, and I think it's different depending on the business. But for us, we've been very much integrated into how the company works and the day-to-day operations, and you know that means that you got to take direction. As you know, for me, as starting out as a teenage founder, it's like you're kind of rogue, you're kind of crazy and doing your own thing, and you know, having someone else tell you what to do sometimes can be a little bit difficult after running your own show for a little while. I think I'll kind of spin that around, still do a positive thing. I joke around that I go rogue a lot. I start something that within the company that I think will be valuable, and you know, kind of incubate an idea at night and on the weekends, and just start coding and hacking away on a project that I think will improve the business. So you know, being kind of rogue at times I think is nice, because you know, when I ultimately pull the veil off of what I've been working on and show it to the team, they usually are receptive to new ideas that I bring to the table. But you know, it kind of takes that rogue attitude a lot of the time to you know, get those ideas into the culture and get the team motivated to you know, to perform on things. But yeah, sometimes it's like having a boss. What can I say? Don't fire me.
In my case, as far as the pitfalls, trying to find the best way to articulate this, but I think you have to be more considerate of other people than I had been in the past. And what I mean by that was I had a team of people who I think I treated very nicely, and that we had clients and investors that I thought we treated very nicely. But within a large organization, there's other factors and other projects going on at the same time. You need to be aware of, and you need to be respectful of. So, for example, you know, this is a little bit on the same vein, but you know, we always used to use Apple computers. We were in the media business. We shot everything on DSLR cameras. We edited everything on Apple computers. A lot of our team had to switch over to PCs. It was a big uproar by the people who worked on that. It was a huge problem. But unfortunately, we had to be appreciative of the fact that there was an infrastructure that 500 people were already using in the organization, and we can't be the lone guys who don't follow the trend. So you have to basically be willing to play by someone else's rules, and that's just the reality of life. It's really like having a real job. It's someone else's game, and you hope that they're appreciative and respectful of your point of view, but at the end of the day, it's their money, and you gotta play by what they want.
Yeah, that sums it up fairly well. I think like a lot of the respective negatives or downsides are probably very similar to what I was just associated with working in a larger company, which even if you were an entrepreneur, inevitably with the focus of building a larger company, if you were successful, you'd be dealing with a lot of the same downsides of having a company where you no longer know everyone's name or see them all the time or things of that nature. So from 25 people to Shopify now, we have 500 people, you know, similar kind of impact. We had the one benefit being that Shopify is headquartered in Ottawa, and we were essentially scaling out a very small office for them before into a bigger one. So we kind of had that local kind of aspect of things that kept things more similar to before, to a certain extent for us. And personally for me, I was very accustomed to being, a generalist at a global level, like having a perspective on every side of the business and having influence and attention to every aspect of that, regardless of if it was in HR to a specific client project to any broad marketing strategy. And working within the context of a larger company, you have to at best be a generalist within a focused area. And everyone has a set of metrics and something to deliver upon, myself included. And specifically, given an acquisition context, you've often been brought in with a certain expectation that this investment into this company, your past company, will deliver a certain set of outcomes and results for the business that is acquiring you. And that's something I keep with me and wake up to every day, that someone spent time, energy, and money to bring our firm into this company, and we have to deliver this at a global level. And so that's kind of an agenda that you continue to carry with you regardless, which is ensuring that you deliver the value that was seen in the business that you had. It's only been a year for me, so maybe that changes over time, but for now it's still something I'm thinking about.
I also hate expense reports.
TPS reports?
TPS.
We were talking about that. Okay, my last question will end on kind of a higher note. Like, what's been, obviously you have to stay engaged. You guys have been entrepreneurs your whole life. Now you're operating within an existing kind of infrastructure. Like, what's been done to kind of incentivize you guys or keep you guys engaged, or what's been some of the benefits beyond kind of just financial that you guys have enjoyed now that you're part of this bigger beast? Jordan?
I would say like the financial benefits are one thing, but it's for me, I never really had a job before. I kind of worked on a bunch of things, as Corey said, but it's sometimes actually kind of nice waking up in the morning and not having the weight of the world on your shoulders. Having investors, having all kinds of stuff going on, customers, users around the world. When you have an app that is on millions of people's phones and you're constantly worried, are your servers going down? Are you gonna get shut down by Apple? What's gonna happen? Is that latest update gonna get approved? Something you're gonna find a bug. There's kind of tremendous stress that's on your shoulders as a founder, and I was a single founder. There's just a lot of weight. You're worried about your team. You're worried about just everything, and there are always good times, and you celebrate those good times. But I think it's kind of nice, after spending really all of my life so far building companies. It's kind of nice to like go through a growth phase at another company where I don't need to worry about everything. I can just worry about what I'm good at. I can worry about my team. I can worry about the product that I'm delivering. I can worry about the customers that I'm servicing, and not worry about HR, not worry about finance, not worry about like a lot of stuff that ultimately I don't really know anything about. Just hustle really hard on the things that I know and kind of get the rest out of the way, not stress about it. I'm here, it's 7:30 at night on a beautiful day, and I can actually enjoy the summertime a little bit and not be, hacking away in the office, day in, day out. And I think that's kind of nice. I'm not scared of it. I'm going to go back to starting a company one day for sure, start something new, but it's nice to kind of take a breather and do a little bit of a reset.
Yeah, I've been noticing that about you, Ash. You've been sleeping in a lot lately, haven't you?
Why do you know that?
The emails have been coming in a lot later than usual.
Exactly. Okay.
It's okay. Rob?
So in my case, ignoring or putting aside the financial benefit, it's just been a real great education. So, I finished university and I started working on this company full force out of school. I never really had a real job. I obviously had this company, but I never had a boss. I never had the traditional big company infrastructure of HR, finance, all those types of things. And as an entrepreneur, it's actually very interesting to see how all those operations work and how big companies work. Because, as Jordan said, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to start another company one day. And it's nice to see, interesting to see how big companies actually make decisions, how they spend money. And I think that's going to be very beneficial as I go on to the next project. Also, at the same time, though, in my particular case, I'm actually learning how to become a better entrepreneur. I'm not lucky. I work for two guys, Cal and Chris, who basically started this company, Channel Zero. It's one other guy, Roman, who started this company. and they're my bosses. But at the end of the day, they're entrepreneurs, and I see how they make decisions. I see how they run their business. They built this 500-person company, the largest independent broadcaster in the country. They've done an amazing job, and I just know I'm picking up some things that's going to help me on the next gig. So for the first time out, this was actually the most ideal situation I've had.
You know, similar to the last point, your question about what keeps you around or keeps you happy in this context. Being an entrepreneur, working for / with other entrepreneurs is a very kind of healthy relationship, because I still feel, even if you're in our size, from the executive team, the founders of Shopify that I work with, I still get the maybe the right word is respect of being a founder, or like a past founder, or that kind of healthy communication and respect for each other's ideas and initiative, and the room to think in that way. So that's a really healthy part of being in kind of the seat where you're now working inside of the company for other founders, and I in turn share that same respect and experience with them. And Shopify specifically had gone through this experience before. They acquired a mobile engineering firm about 2 years before acquiring Jack Cooper, the one that was in Ottawa called Select Start Studios. So they had worked out a lot of their own kinks of how to work in and integrate another company, and that made the second time around they were aware of a lot of the blind spots that we would experience and they would experience because they had gone through this before, and that made the integration process smooth. And that was also reassuring to us coming in that they knew what to do, and everyone from that acquisition, or a great majority, were still there 2 years later. So it gave them the credibility and the satisfaction coming in that would be the case. So yeah, other than that, anyone, whether it's your own business or somewhere else, you need a great vision and some great work to do, and you can create that for yourself, or someone gives that to you, and that's been great.
Cool. All right, well, thanks, guys. So it's 7:30. We'll open up the table here, and if anyone has any questions, feel free. If you guys have any questions for them, feel free, and we'll do this for next 10 to 15 minutes or so, and then we'll have some drinks. Yes, go ahead.
So my question is for you big gents, what insights do you have about you being a boss now that you have a boss?
People are very difficult to manage. And well, I was a boss before. I mean, in fairness, what I will say is, as far as being this acqui-hire, and when I'm working for a company that likes to do things properly, what I've learned is I was doing everything wrong before. So I think during this new process, I just learned about more formalized management, and also what makes people tick, and not only that, with not only people within my team, but also how my team interacts with other teams within the organization. It's a big thing. You don't go to golf day, as I learned. I went to golf day, but some of my people did not. And it became a thing. So now I know that. Yes.
Just on that question, when you're a founder, you take for granted the fact that people, no matter what you say, ultimately, from their view, they probably feel like they have to listen to you anyway. So sometimes you're not as thorough or considerate when you communicate ideas and what you want done or respect done or want to see happen, your vision be it. So you realize how important that communication and collaboration in any idea or concept is, versus just, I've had my own moments of walking by someone's desk and saying, we're going to do it this way, and with little to no context and walking away. That doesn't work.
I'm going to spin the question around for a second. I think for me, I was working at a company, as Corey said, called Ripple early on. I was a young intern, and you always look at your boss, or you look at the CEO or whatever, and you say, like, wouldn't it be easy to be that guy up there, that girl up there? And being a founder, it kind of flipped things around on you, that you're like, geez, like you're in the middle of everything. You need to manage what your team wants, what your customers want, what your investors want, what the government is allowing you to do, and all these other, kind of impossible things to balance. And I think it gives you a better appreciation now, for me, in having a boss again, about what that person is telling me and understanding, you know, what the constraints that they play with on a daily basis are. Because from that first, you know, first experience, you're like, you know, this guy looks like he comes in late and leaves early, doesn't do anything, you know, travels all the time, and then you start to realize like you know, what it means to really be a boss, what it really means to you know, to mentor people and lead people, and it gives you, I think, a better appreciation when you go from being a founder or even being an employee at a startup that's early on and starting to, you know, understand some of the constraints you play with on a daily basis, and then going back into, you know, a more corporate setting and saying like, well, what does it really mean to be part of this hierarchy? And why are they telling me to do this stuff every day?
Cool. And just before you say your question, if you can say your name and the company you're coming from. I have this like weird thing. I want people to come for the content but stay for the community, so I want people to meet. I think it's a good way to start. So, all right.
Do you want to throw your name and company in?
No one wants to raise your hand now. All right, let's go back to the end. Let's go back to the old way.
Do you want to end it with your
Yeah,
name?
sure. I'm Karen from Mars.
Good to meet you.
Thanks.
Cool.
Cheers, guys.
In the back, yes.
My name is Rob, and I work for a company called Functional Imperatives. We're a development company. And my question is more for Satish. You came from a service business model, and I know that you were also one of the original organizers of Lean Coffee. And so I wonder if you could share some insights about applying these startup principles to growing a services business and some of the insights that you learned from that.
Yeah, the way that the importance of the Lean startup philosophies to us at that time in the services business was building a stronger understanding of how the product companies we were working with were operating or should be operating. So it was kind of, in the sense, like we organized our team very similarly to how a sub-team in a product company would exist as cross-disciplinary design groups that would pair with engineering groups inside of other companies. So we wanted to be intimately familiar with what their expectation of customer feedback and iteration-driven development would be like. And so we used the lessons and kind of teachings of the Lean Startup to also inform the way we did design research and customer interviews and other things, and to build that into a comprehensive understanding of what the agile development process would be like with the product companies that we were working with. So that was kind of the reason why we were heavily involved in that Lean Coffee and Lean Startup community. At the same time, the general constructs of conducting good customer interviews and other things helped us in a number of different ways, and the community was a great way to meet a lot of great people that were partners, friends, clients, and other things.
Yeah. No, yeah. You, Sean.
Yeah, okay. And Sean from Sketchfab. So now you guys have started companies and you guys have sold it, and now you guys are working on companies, you're constantly learning. When you guys go out to start your own company in the next year or two, I don't know what it will be. What kind of businesses would you guys start, and what is the one thing that you would do differently now that you've had all these experiences?
Sure. I'll take it. I think that, you know, on timing, the first thing is I think my lesson is I'm not in a rush. People seem to glorify startups. People seem to make it like you got to be in a startup. You know, you sell a company on to the next thing right away. To me, it's like, and this is hard for me to say as like a really young guy, is like patience is really good. There's no reason to rush into something. There's no reason just to do something for the sake of doing it. I want to do something because I enjoy it. I want to do something because I'm passionate about it. I loved what we were doing at AppHero, and I'm still incredibly passionate about the field and the subject. But I want to make sure that I get into something for the right reasons. I want to make sure I get into it to build something massive. And I think that the second part is about scale, that it's a lot of work. It's, you know, as I said before, people glorify startups. There's nothing to glorify at all. It's a lot of work. It's day in and day out stress. You know, your family hates you. Your friends all forget who you are. It's just, it's really tough. And there's no reason to get into something unless you really, really believe that it could be massive. I'm happy with what we achieved with AppHero, but I'm not going to do it again for, you know, that scale of outcome. I want to do something that delivers just massive value to millions and billions of people around the world. And I think in some ways, there was an article I was reading that founders who sell a company for under 100 million tend to start another company. And it has nothing to do with making money, but it's kind of about that chip on your shoulder, that grudge you have with the market that's like, this time I'm going to start a company that just delivers way bigger value to the market, way bigger value to the people you want to help, and you're just going to solve a bigger problem. So, I'd say don't rush and solve a big problem. Those are the two massive lessons for me.
In my case, to answer your first question, I don't know necessarily when, but my next company I think will be something to do with cars. I'm a car nut. My two passions have always been kind of media and cars. It's going to be something to do with cars. It excites me. I haven't done anything in cars, so I want to do something with cars. To your second point, what I would do differently is you have to rely on other people, but at the end of the day, you have to rely on yourself. Just do it yourself. Most people will disappoint you. That's just the reality I've learned. I love people. I owe a lot of people a huge amount of gratitude for the way they've helped me. But at the end of the day, you have to rely on yourself in order to make things happen. And the other important lesson I've learned is if you can't make money or no one's going to pay you money for it, it's not a business, it's a hobby, it's not worth anything.
Talking about it.
Okay. I know there's different perspectives on it. You can get lucky.
Consumer tech is a business.
Yes. At the end of the day, from my personal perspective, whatever it's worth, take it for what it's worth. It's free advice. If someone's not going to pay you for it, not a business.
I would.
Bring it home, Satish.
That's all right. In terms of what I would do differently, I started a design-focused business, and in the future, I would bring a more diverse set of skills earlier on to the business. I've learned a great deal from Shopify's core capabilities in engineering, and the design capabilities that we brought, and the value and understanding of how those work together is unquestionable. So I would certainly do that differently. In terms of what I might do someday in the future, I hope to figure it out on a beach in Hawaii one day and not to have to think about it ever before. So I got no idea.
Cool. Yeah, Peter.
Peter, Unison for Startups. So two questions. First one should be a quick answer for each one of you guys. How far removed are each of you from the acquisition? Like when did it? How far in the past?
13 months.
I think what 15 months.
Okay.
We were last fall, so almost a year now.
Okay. So and I think Satish, you spoke to this a little bit, but I'm curious as to what extent the actual integration process was managed. Like, did you guys literally just cut cake and burst balloons one day, and then poof, your team was there the next, or what did it look like?
Yeah, ours was really hands-on. Like, essentially, my first 6 months were chief acquisition officer, of like making sure that integration with everything I thought of it was bringing the cultures together, how to set up teams, how to make sure people met each other, even ensuring people had flown over to headquarters on a timely basis, and had a chance to kind of meet key people, bring the key people in. Like, they had a list of things that were important to do from the Shopify's past experience acquiring a company, and we had things that were very important from our perspective to ensure that our team was well ramped up and otherwise. So, plus we had an existing set of customer contracts to finish on the Jack Cooper side. So that there was a detailed process to manage the whole thing. And only, as that calmed down, did I pick up small projects in Shopify, and only after it was fully done, like 8 months later, like only 4-ish months ago, did I pick up like a job outside of managing side projects and bringing the full team together and setting up the office. So that's pretty hands-on.
In our case, we're still trying to figure out everything and how these two teams and kind of integrate how they work together. But again, in our case, on April 30th, a truck with CHCH lettering pulled up outside our office. The lease was up on our office April 30th. Some guys came in, took all our stuff, put it in the truck. We were told to show up May 1st at our new office. Desks were assigned, the computers were showed up, and were set up, and the president, Cal Miller, said, "Get going." And that's it.
Did you go in the truck, or did?
I don't know.
I didn't like wrap you up.
No.
For us, I think it was actually a very stressful process for us and for the team. For us it was more of a technology thing, and it wasn't about the actual product that was in the market. It was kind of a tough transition for the team, and something that ultimately meant that the two of the really important folks on the team just a few months later ended up needing to kind of bow out, because it was a stressful process. I think we all went in with great intentions, and I think those intentions remain today. But it's hard to integrate, especially when you have, let's say, two tech leaders. It's like, well, who's who, and this one guy reports to the other guy, and it's awkward when you kind of bring two things together like that. I think today we all kind of work on different things, and I'm happy with that. I enjoy what I do on a daily basis. But I think that there's definitely lessons learned about how to make it a little bit smoother, how to make sure that everyone really knows what they're doing from day one. Make sure that it's not just here's your computer and here's your desk, but it's like here's what you can do to help drive this business forward. Because I think that's really important when it's not, hey, we're acquiring when you're not just acquiring a business to run that business, you're acquiring some people and some technology and some process and some properties or whatever. It's like, how do you merge these two things that these two kind of inorganic things that don't want to come together? They do, because they are cutting cake and they are having fun together, but it's awkward. So I think there's definitely a lot of lessons learned there, and it's, to me, just comes down to the people and making sure that the people are properly aligned with the overall vision, and kind of have that central vision of what they're going to do every day, what they're going to wake up and dedicate their lives to.
Paul also said, we were super lucky compared to these two kind of experiences. Because, again, Shopify being Ottawa-based and us in Toronto, the day the acquisition was announced, we didn't move anywhere. Actually, 10 people working at Shopify moved into the Jack Cooper office. And we were actually the larger group of people in Toronto, and Shopify had a marketing team of 10 and a couple of developers. So at the macro level, we were learning Shopify, and at a local level, Shopify was learning how our culture and office was operating with that kind of design discipline core. So it was kind of, again, a mutual learning process. Much better than putting our stuff in the truck.
I didn't mind it because we have a much nicer office now. And
yeah, and I needed to move some of my stuff, so he's lucky that he got a truck.
I got guys and a truck.
Yeah.
So.
And my cousin and a truck.
Yeah, Ash. I just want to ask, when you compared to when you first brought the team together, the first team that you brought together to actually build what you built. What did you learn, and how would you build your team differently the next time around? Or what would be the common thing that you would say, okay, one thing that was in common with all my team members at that time was this, for example?
I touched on it from my standpoint. I would have a more diverse set of skills at the table, but I don't know if there's other things I know I would do differently in building a team. Misunderstood the question.
I think in my case, I had the right team. We had small personnel problems because we just had a bunch of people working together, and that's what happens. But at the end of the day, they developed a great product, and the stars just kind of aligned. We all worked together, we all liked each other. We're all roughly the same age, and it was fun doing what we did. The only thing I might have done a little bit differently is try to work out some kind of equity plan, which I didn't have the time to do in order to incentivize them, which I think could have helped. But otherwise, I was lucky.
I'm going to kind of squash what you had to say before. Not that line, but something else.
Yeah.
For me, I'm really proud of the team. I'm very close with our team. We meet up all the time. We hang out. It's great people that I really care about. Both the people that I got to work together with every day, but also the people that joined in the acquisition and later left, or the people who left along the way for one reason or another. I'm close to those people. Those people helped me build my baby, and I'm very appreciative of that. I think at the same time, going at it again, I think I need to learn to trust people more. I went at it as a single founder without that kind of that shoulder to cry on. And I think having someone that you look side to side with, for me at least, was something that I take as a big learning lesson. That, you know, despite what I respect, that, you know, for you it's about finding someone, you're doing it yourself. But I think finding that pair, finding someone that you trust, that complements your skills, who you can just kind of jam with, is really important, because you can't take on all the stress yourself, especially at a massive scale. It's just, you can't have the weight of the world on one person's shoulders, or if you do, it ends up, you know, really hurting, you know, your entire life, your relationships with your family, with your friends, with, you know, girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. It's just, you can't take everything on yourself. So having someone to split those responsibilities and you know, implicitly trust that, you know, they're just going to get stuff done. You don't need to ask them questions. To me is very important as a lesson around team building and you know, how to shake things down.
Cool. So we'll take one more question, and then I know we're off to a late start. I want to try to stay as punctual as possible. So we'll take one more question. Are you guys going to stick around for 5-10 minutes or so to answer like any other questions? Yeah. Cool. All right. Who really wants to ask a question? Colin. Yeah.
Colin, I work at a big company called Mondelez, Oreo Cadbury. I'm also running an Innate Startup contest in January. But my question is for
regarding a potential acquisition of Shopify, and went through that kind of introspective process of really asking what were we building and why and to what end. I think that would have fundamentally changed our decision making as entrepreneurs as well. Assuming we had had that conversation and chosen not to move forward, I think we would have pushed ourselves to introduce new kinds of risk into our business outside of the services and consulting model, either in doing that in a more inherently complex way, or in kind of trying out new business models with products or tools or kind of added services or anything of that nature. We would have probably slowed down on we were constantly reinvesting our earnings into growing the business and expanding clientele. We probably would have paused that and invested those funds in other things. So having had that conversation.
For us, I think you know, we were flirting with this kind of advertising space and very interested in it, and the alignment with Fuse, I think, allowed us to get into that a lot quicker and more aggressively, and I think allowed them to, you know, greatly expedite what they were trying to put in the market. If we were on our own, I think we'd probably be working on similar things. In you know, I don't know what the success would have looked like. I don't know, you know, if we could have pulled it off. I don't know what exactly would happen. What I know right now is I got to work with great people every day on, you know, interesting problems, great customers, and you know, I'm happy that they've been able to, you know, kind of bring me to that spot. So I'm not really big into looking backwards and saying, you know, woulda, coulda, shoulda kind of stuff. It's just, you know, I'm happy with where we're at today, and very appreciative of the team around me, and yeah.
That's a fair question. Actually, to be honest with you, I haven't thought about it before. I don't know. I think, and partially the reason why I haven't thought about it was I think this was the best outcome. This made the most sense what we were doing, and I think about 7 or 8 months before we sold it, I knew this was probably what was going to happen. So this was actually the outcome that made the most sense and is the best desirable outcome for everybody.
And I think I can back that up for Rob. Like, you know, we're close friends, and we were kind of mentoring each other through these processes. And I think as we were talking about what we wanted, what we saw for our teams, what we saw for our businesses, I think he can hold me honest, and I think I can hold him honest that it's a good outcome, it's the right outcome, and something that fits. It makes sense.
Or as Jordan said earlier, we'd most definitely still all be at the office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also lose all skin tone because you never go outside during the day. Yeah.
Well, on that note, let's stay in this office for a bit, have some drinks. I think we have 2 big book winners, Mike.
Yeah, we do. So the first one is Twitter. It's Ron McKenzie.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So next, I'll get your address and we'll get you the book.
Your book after. And the other one is the Instagram winner, Chad McCaffrey. Is that right?
There it is. All right. All right, cool. Well, thanks, guys. Our next event's going to be at the end of September. We have more info coming soon. Stick around. Lots of drinks, lots of pizza, and thanks again for the support. We appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thanks to the panel.